All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to day one of the future of Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. Hope everybody had an awesome Friday. George, how's it going?
Double whammy. I mean, no, not whammy. That's not no double whammy. That's right. All good.
All good.
All good.
All good.
I know. I'm going with this could be another best day ever. This is 2 weeks in a row. I think last Friday I said that was my best day ever.
This is some kind of good day today, and you can tell everybody. We'll wait for people to get on the stream, and you can let them know what you did. But first, all right, first let me do that. We'll switch to this mode, and then if everybody could please smash the like button, we would appreciate it. It helps the stream in real time, makes a big difference. On a big day today, we have almost nobody with us on the stream. So for those of you who are with us, thank you for being here, and hopefully we'll get some people to join us, and or my numbers might not be showing up properly here. That is also sometimes the case with the YouTube app.
So Tom, was this a classic fake out yesterday with Cleanspark?
I do not believe that this was a fake out with Cleanspark yesterday. Something happened today, and I'm going to ask for everybody else's opinion. Something happened this morning, sometime after the market opened, and it was not related to the move in Bitcoin today, because I'll walk you guys through the timing of this. But every single Bitcoin miner,
classic fake out. It seemed like a fake out because think about it, they tanked it last night.
Yeah, but here's the thing: it wasn't just Cleanspark. All of a sudden, simultaneously, every single Bitcoin miner went through the roof and just continued to run the rest of the entire day. I mean, yes, Cleanspark was a bizarre case because last night, I mean, Cleanspark was, and we'll talk, obviously, for those of you who don't know, probably most of you do know, Cleanspark announced they had their annual financial statements. They didn't put their financial statements out, but they put their financial information out for their year end. Their year end is September 30th. They had a conference call, which I listened to, and we'll go through. And the stock got decimated. It was just going down and down and down. At one point, it was down $1. It was down over 15% in after hours. Even though Bitcoin ran this morning and hit a new high for the year, it was still in the red, down 5, 6, 7%. And the rest of the miners were having a fairly typical morning. And then out of the clear blue, bam, I'm going to go all the way down to the 5-minute chart and find out where it happened. But it was like, all of a sudden, like, everything changed and we're in a new world where, you know, this is the best. And I know I've said this before, just like George, this is the best day of the year for the Bitcoin miners. And I mean, this board is full of, let's put it this way. There was only 1 or 2 Bitcoin miners that weren't up double digits today. I'm looking at Riot at 9.72, I think is the second worst Bitcoin mining performing stock on the day. That was up almost 10%. Cypher was the lagger as far as I can tell at 6.14%. I have MicroStrategy on the list. They're up 5.9%, but they're not the same leverage. They're not a Bitcoin miner. We will talk about MicroStrategy. They had a massive, I won't say an announcement. They have to release their information. So there's big news regarding MicroStrategy. They were up almost 6%. But look at these moves. So Cleanspark was up 22.4%. To your point, George, it was down 15% in after hours last night. That's almost a 30% move. But if you look, TerraWolf was up 18%. Stronghold was up 23%. Mawson was up 32%. Any Spear Ticker, any Stock 3D was up 28%.
That's insane.
Hut was up 19.5%. Cleanspark was up 16%. Marathon was up 14%. I mean, it was everything. Was there anybody that didn't make money today in the Bitcoin miners? And we should just look at one other thing, because there was, and this is, you know, there's a lot of things that went into this, I'm sure, but one of the things that happened today, and I happen to be on Riot here, but let me just refresh and get The Russell, look at the Russell. So the Russell 2000, and for those of you who are members, we've been talking about the small caps, the Russell 2000. We've got a couple of specific plays. I think there's going to be a big run on this. It's way behind. It's gotten destroyed since really February or March of 2021. And we all know this. We see our watch lists, and the small cap stocks have just gotten taken out. But the Russell was up almost 3% today. This was, you can see at the open, and you can barely see it here. I don't know if it shows up. This opened in the red today, and it ended up 3%. For an index, that's a massive, massive move to the upside. Everything pumped today, as the day went on. Things just went up and up. I know Jerome Powell was speaking a couple of times today. I don't have any idea what he said. So, if you guys know, let me know. But there's really, I just don't think there's anything that he could say at this point that makes too much of a difference. We'll check the futures and see if that changed as far as people's expectation on interest rates.
I'm just in shock.
Yeah, that's, what? I talked to so many people in kind of that next hour, and they were all having the same thing that you just said. It was kind of like everyone's just a little bit stunned. Like, what's going on right now?
We've been talking about it and talking about it and talking about it, and then bam.
And then, right, but why was that the moment? Who knows? Who cares, maybe?
Yeah, who cares? Yeah, I don't care. I'm just glad I was still in it, guys. I stayed in it. I didn't get scared.
George
I'm in shock that I'm still in every single one. I was in shock. And Tom, can we talk about the 10K challenge?
If you want, we have not made one single trade in the 10K challenge this year.
I just did. I made one today.
Oh, you made one today? Okay.
Yep.
So it's just other than what George did today. So it hasn't impacted the results. We just let it sit to see what would happen.
We had a 19% gain today, and we're back over $4,000. So it's going to be real interesting to watch because this seems like it should go back to $10,000.
Yeah, that's what we talked about. At the beginning of the year, it was about, it's up, 120, 130% on the year, which...
It got down to $1,600 at one point in time.
So, yeah.
And it's basically all Bitcoin. It's CleanSpark, Bitfarms, and HUT.
Those are the three big positions. We had 3 or 4 other positions at one point. I'm not sure. I haven't even looked. You looked today and kind of told me what was going on.
Yeah, but that's going to be interesting to see if it comes back. My wife loves me again. That's great, Sour. Do you have any information on Core? Is there anything new?
On what?
Core Scientific.
Oh, we looked at the last press release last week, and I haven't really seen anything else since then. So we can talk about that a little bit. Hello to all the members. Hello, Sour Melon Gaming. Hello, Steven. Hello, Nash V, JD, Alex, JJT, Edmund, Barry. If I missed you, it's just Darren S, Alexander, Crypto Fever, Wesley. Just want to take a minute and say thanks to all the members. Aaron, Darren, Cosmic Contrarian, and everybody else. If I did miss you, JR, Midway, Miguel, Craig, Calvin.
10K to 1K, then 1K back to 10K challenge.
Yeah, that was an exercise in futility. Well, at least we didn't waste any time on it.
No, but you know what, though? We didn't get rid of it because, well, I will tell you, Tom was the one that has all the confidence in it. I did not. I was just like, but at this point in time, what's the sense of selling?
Yeah, there was no point in taking $1,600 out of there.
Right. There's just no reason. 16, you know what I mean?
But I did say I was confident it would get back over $10,000, and we're not there yet by any means, but I do think we'll get back and run from there. And had we actively traded it, I feel like we'd be a lot higher. This has been a busy year. This has been a crazy year, and we kind of set that aside and just let it be. But
So here's
we've
my
done a lot of
question,
other
Tom.
things.
Do you think Bitcoin's on the run, and do you think this will be, a straight, a straight up line, or what are you thinking?
Let's go to the 1 day. I think this was a very important. This is not the 1 day. Ah, that looks better. So here's the key. We're about to do a couple, unless something catastrophic happens in the next few hours. If you guys remember, for those of you who have been with us for a while, or if you're new here, we've been watching two lines for the last few weeks. You got to go back to November 15th, and it's only December 1st, so, that's 16 days ago. That was that daily candle. That's the highest daily candle of the year 2023. That was this purple line at $37,885. We have not closed above that this year. That's still the record. Now, we're about to break that unless something bizarre happens. I'm just going to take a time out because I do see a super chat. Darren Thomas, thank you very much, sir, for the super chat. Darren Thomas said, my best day ever. Do you think CleanSpark kitchen synced Q4? Are they done diluting? What's going on with the cost per coin? Thank you for all those questions, Darren. I will definitely talk about CleanSpark today on the stream. Also, I'm putting together a deep dive. I took pages of notes during their conference call, and I was going to do a video, and I did a different video today. If you guys haven't seen my video today, you can check it out. It was a little bit different than my normal videos. I don't want to rush a CleanSpark video out. Both CleanSpark and Bitfarms had such monumental amount of information that I want to put it together. Particularly CleanSpark, I thought was very, very complicated. And I wasn't surprised the stock was kind of tanking last night. I disagreed with it, but I felt like I knew why it was happening. Now, everything reversed today, so I don't know that we'll ever know what the natural course of events was going to be. I think if Bitcoin didn't go do what it did today and whatever else happened, I think we would have had a red day today in CleanSpark. And I thought it was going to be a big buying opportunity. I didn't buy after hours. I said last night in the private Discord, if the opportunity presents itself, so I was going to buy some leaps when the market opened today. Well, by the time that happened, the opportunity did not present itself. So, so be it, because also, that's my largest position. So watching it run today was, for me, obviously I'm not going to lament the fact that I didn't, get to seize that after hours opportunity. I made a trade after hours within the last week. It's the only one I've done all year. I really don't trade in after hours. It's the Wild West. And this is a classic lesson as to why, right? A stock that was down 15% in after hours was up 20-something% on the day today. So a lot of times on that lesser volume, you're just not getting, you don't know what information you're really getting. So I don't know if that answers your question. We'll talk more about that, but there were issues. So just to go a little bit more into CleanSpark, their cost per coin was up. So I definitely, that's an issue to be discussed. The stock dilution, I think, was more than expected. One of the overall comments I will say is, usually I say that these quarterly results, the financial statements, and then this one happens to be annual results. Usually they're almost non-events for the Bitcoin miners because we get monthly updates, so we're pretty in tune to what's going on. Sometimes there's a surprise in there. I was surprised at a lot of things yesterday, so that's why I wanted to go through them. Their cost per coin requires a deep conversation. Their overhead, to me, requires more conversation and explanation. Their cost per coin went up. Their overhead went way up. And on the surface, both of those things sound terrible. they discussed it on the conference call, and they talked about some mitigating factors, and I do think their story makes sense. But I will say, those are the kind of things when something like that happens. To me, I want to wait a quarter and see. They talked about why that happened and what it's going to mean going forward, but I'd like to see that play out in the next quarterly results. But obviously, we're months away from getting that report. In the meantime, even with the increase in cost per coin, so at the cost per coin they had, at the increase in overhead, still the economics of what they're doing there and the massive amount of growth that they have still all work for me. So I have not lost any of my conviction in CleanSpark, but I do think it was a pretty complicated story. And, it's the first time this year I was left with some questions that I think is going to take some time to answer and that require a lot more. That's why I want to do a much deeper dive. I'm kind of touching on some of these matters right now. I'm sure you guys have your opinions on them as well. But to me, CleanSpark was a pretty complicated story yesterday. With all that said, it was up 22% today. So, even among the large Bitcoin miners, it was pretty much the leader. Yes, a lot of the small caps ran like crazy. And I will tell you, I wish I remember who it was. I'm pretty sure it was a member sometime within the last week said, hey, you know what? You think it's worth just taking a shot at buying the bottom 3 Bitcoin miners? And we specifically, and just taking a shot and see what happens. And we talked about any Mawson, so any is technically ANY, Mawson, MIGI, and Stronghold, SDIG. So they were up 28% today, 32% today, and 23% today. So
that's unbelievable.
My feeling was I'd rather stick with the winners than take the risk. But, whoever that was, if they did do that, that worked out well. Now, my 2 biggest positions are CleanSpark, which was up 22%, and Bitfarms, which was up 16%. So, I'm not going to cry that I missed out on all 3 of those did better than that. But, this was a seriously green day.
Now, this was a crazy day. So do you think that means Monday's going to be a crazy day, or do you think there's going to be a little bit of a pullback?
Well, so let me finish what I was saying, and we'll try to figure that out. Because I do think today 2 important things did happen. So we were talking about this purple line here goes back to November 15th. That is the highest close of the year in the year 2023. All these days, we candlewicked above this once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, actually 5 times, really. This one candlewicked as well. All 5 of those times we pulled back. There were, some of this was getting ridiculous. On this day, we closed at 37,745. On this day, we closed at 37,805. So that's $50 under the highest close of the year. This day was $17 under the highest close of the year. 2 days ago, we closed, what? $17, $18 under the... So, this was almost perfect resistance. At the daily candle close, you could see it just kept running back just underneath that line. Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's not going to happen today. We are now $1,000 over that line. So, number one, there were 2 important things we wanted to do. That was number 1. We did it today. It was Friday. So, we crushed this. We will have, barring strange things in the next 2 hours, we're going to have the highest daily candle close of the year. The second thing we did was, you can see that the high of the year in 2023 was on November 24th. That was 1 week ago. That was last Friday. So we were talking about that on the stream last Friday. And once again, what almost perfect resistance. We candlewicked up to within, just a few dollars of it on Tuesday. We actually went, on this chart, a couple of dollars over it and then candlewicked down below. So twice, this was resistance. We failed here, but the third time was the charm. And this is oftentimes how you'll see this go. We got to bump into things a couple of times. And then, you know, you don't know which way it breaks, but typically after you bump into something 2 or 3 or 4 times, it breaks in one direction or the other. I tend to always say my philosophy is, you know, you got to go with what's the momentum? What direction are we going in? So, you know, we have been going up both in the small scale and all year long, large scale. So I felt like we were going to break to the upside. And we've been talking about that on the channel. We've been doing polls about this on the channel. And almost everybody was in agreement that they thought the next move was to the upside. I just want to take a quick second and say thank you to Jay for the super chat. Much appreciated. I said, Tom, here's the cup of coffee I promised you last year. Glad to have bought a truckload of Cleanspark thanks to you and the folks on this channel. Well, you're welcome, Jay, and good job. It's ultimately for everybody. You guys know it's your own buying decision, and you know, you're the one who has to pull the trigger. So, and these stocks have been brutal to buy into, to hold on to, right? They did everything under the sun to try to get us to buy high and sell low on these. I mean, to the extreme. I'm going to show you some charts. I'm going to go to one right now, actually. To put it in perspective, at the time, this was week 13 of what was a 14-week period of just, and I pulled this one up kind of at random. They all looked like this week after week after week. So this was from Bitcoin hit its high for the year for the first time on Thursday, July 13th. It got to about 31,886 or something like that. And so this was the Bitcoin miners on that Friday. So this was them 13 weeks later. This is what had happened to the Bitcoin miners. While Bitcoin was down 11%, you can see this was back. So this was a month and a half ago. The Bitcoin miners, other than Core Scientific, all the rest of the Bitcoin miners, CleanSpark was down 49%. All the rest of them were down between 50 and 75% in this 13-week period. When Bitcoin was only down 11%. It got worse than that. 2, 3, 4 weeks later, Bitcoin had actually rallied and was positive. These were all still down 40%, 45%, 50%. Some of them were still down 60, 70%. So this was 3 or 4 months of just absolutely horrific action. And we kept talking about, and especially on the channel for the last month, I've been saying, as hard as it seems to believe, I believe a lot of these Bitcoin miners are going to catch up and pass Bitcoin by the end of the year. So that is starting to happen. And this week, when I do my chart this week, we will have the first Bitcoin miner since July 14th that is now outperforming Bitcoin. So I'm going to go to last week's. If I have that, I believe I do. Let me find the same. Okay, so this is week 19. So now 19 weeks into this since the highs of the summer. So Bitcoin took out its high of the summer a long time ago, right? It's now up, and this was as of last Friday, 1 week ago. So you can see this is going to change dramatically this week. Bitcoin was up 25%. Still, all of these Bitcoin miners, you know, 43%, 43%. You know, most of these were down somewhere between still 40 and 70%. Mawson 78%. You can see some of these were disastrously down still. CleanSpark was the closest one to even. CleanSpark is now in the green as of this week. So, right, that was this 19% DMG. So you're going to see with the action, just today's action alone was massive. But several of these stocks, CleanSpark, Bitfarms, and Iris Energy in particular, even prior to today, had big, big run-ups this week. So you're going to start to see a lot of these flip into the green, which was, again, this was only 6 weeks ago. You know, if we were to discuss 6 weeks ago that some of these stocks were going to be in the green within, you know, 2 months, that would have been hard to believe. And the world was pretty bearish on both Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners at this time, even our polling at that time. And that's why we do polling On our members only video, we do polling. And then on our live streams on Friday, which is for the world, which is what we're doing right now, we like to do polling. And I will start a poll right now. We try to gauge sentiment of, you know, where do you think Bitcoin's going? And sentiment was very, very bad somewhere here in the, you know, throughout October. It was a lot of gloom and doom. So I know a lot of the people, and I see a lot of members on this stream. I know a lot of you guys held on through all of this, and now, you know, you're getting paid off now in a big way. So congratulations to obviously the members, subscribers, and to everybody. You know, if you're here with us on the stream and you have held through this brutal, this is, you know, we had our crypto winter. We just had a 4-month Bitcoin mining winter that was every bit as vicious as a crypto winter. I mean, this was horrendous, and we're starting to see, you know, a big change. I'm going to go back to last week's. Go ahead, George.
There was YouTubers out there talking about these Bitcoin miners have priced in the halving. Have you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So does that kind of throw that analogy out the window? Is that, you know what I mean?
I would say that the people who thought that, you know, a month ago and a half ago, and we talked about this a lot, and we disagreed with that at then, and I think you can see now. And that doesn't mean, you know, you'll be the first one to always say this, George. You know, this doesn't go up in a straight line. This was an unbelievably good day. This was really an outstanding week. And I think the next move is up, but, you know, everything doesn't go up in a straight line forever. So I do think we'll get, sometime between now and the halving, we'll probably get another whammy. We actually kind of avoided one. We were due for a 20% pullback from a technical analysis standpoint. We somehow skated through, and I'll show you what I'm talking about because it's really very simple. It would be simple if this was doing what, if this chart at all reflected what I was talking about.
As Tom's doing that, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, we would really appreciate it. And thanks again to all the members. And remember, you make your own decision with your own money, not financial advice.
Please keep your arms.
And then you can hear the dumb thing I did today. And you guys, you'll be like, you idiot. And well, the trade's not over yet. Let's just say that.
I was going to say, it's way too soon to decide whether or not that was a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, well, I mean,
sometimes it's almost like I don't know how to use this thing, you know? Here we go. I think. Nope, still not. All right. There we go.
Listen to Peters. I sold 25% of my Cleanspark at 7.6. I have my total investment out now, and I leave my profits in and run.
So that's, you know, that's a good strategy. I would say it's a safe strategy. It's a good strategy. If you've gotten to the point where you've doubled up or whatever the case may be, and you pulled your initial investment out, you know, then, you know, you're worth, if you lose all your money from there on out, you at least broke even on the trade. And obviously, you know, it's unlikely these stocks are going to zero. So if that's your strategy to take profits, then, you know, I commend people that did so. Everybody's got different strategies. I sold some stuff today, but it was only options. So I sold some, I closed out some options positions that I had that were up nicely. And then I sold some options to open. So we'll see how those play out. But I did not sell any of my stock. And this was another very, very difficult day to not sell stock. I mean, with the run, I'm going to pull up Cleanspark in specific because, you know, this is, and it's not, it's not, well, and it's not the only one, but this run has been vicious. So let me get to it.
ETF is not priced in. It will be much, much higher.
Let's first get a poll going.
Cleanspark to $10 next week. Eesh. No offense, I hope not. That could be the dumbest trade ever. But I'm going to talk to you about that trade too, Tom, because I'm thinking about doing something here just to protect myself.
Oh my.
I mean, if I can get it cheap, you know what I mean? My some $10 options on CleanSpark.
Yep. Hey, that's okay. So I'm gonna start with this one. Quick poll: will Bitcoin? I don't know why I said that. Get to hit. Will Bitcoin hit? I meant to say, will Bitcoin hit 45,000 in 2023?
Get to hit.
Will it get to hit it? Are we gonna get to 45K this year? I'm starting there. Let's see how everybody feels.
Oh,
we're at almost 39. By the way, if you look, I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but if you look up here, it'll show you. We got to exactly $39,000.00 today. So that was the high on the day. That is the new high on the year for 2023. You have to go back to May of 2022 to get a price this high. So, that's over a year and a half ago, basically. So we're at a year and a half high right now for Bitcoin. And to me, I think the next move is up. So I'll let this poll finish, and it's really close. So if you have not voted, it's obviously free to vote in the poll. So you're welcome to vote. Let's see what everybody thinks. 45K. I'll be interested. Go ahead, George.
I know we were talking about CleanSpark. How would you come up with a realistic price for after the halving? Because now we're talking at sometime in either April or May, correct?
It's going to be April, yes.
Okay, it's going to be April now. And how do we determine what the price should be if Bitcoin stays around 40-some thousand?
Well,
yeah,
that's the if. There's two big factors that are, unknowns.
Oh, thanks.
And, obviously there's a lot more factors than that, but the two giant factors are the price of Bitcoin. That is an unknown. We don't know what it's going to be at the halving. And then, what is the network difficulty going to be? Because that obviously affects everybody's ability to mine Bitcoin. And I guess the third one that is now starting to come into play, and a few of the Bitcoin miners are starting to talk about this themselves, is the fees. Are the fees, we had a nice month of fees in November of 2023, the month that just ended. So the fees went up. There were certain periods. I will tell you, by the end of the month, we'll take a look. They kind of came back down to earth a little bit. There were several blocks where the fees were 3 Bitcoin. So there's blocks typically in the past that are 0.2 Bitcoin, 0.1 Bitcoin, 0.2 Bitcoin, 0.3 Bitcoin. There were a lot of blocks that were 2 Bitcoin, 2.5 Bitcoin, 3 Bitcoin. That's a drastic increase in the fees. Now, when the reward is 6.25 as a percentage, that's a significant percent. But at the halving, when the reward's going to be 3.125, if the fee is 3 Bitcoin, you just doubled. That's going to be massively significant. So that's another variable that sits out there. Now, I do not think by any stretch of the imagination we're going to have consistently fees of 2 or 3 Bitcoin per block. I think someday we will, but I don't think that's going to be in this cycle. So, I think it'll take some time, but I do think the fees are going to become more and more important as time goes by. Darren S. says, to the unknown person who sold me those shares of CleanSpark last night for the wonderful $5.50, thank you. Yes. Oh I know. It's like a
$2. Isn't that insane?
It's like a gift.
They're going to call you and say, I want my $2.
But yeah. but to Darren's credit, Darren pulled the trigger and bought them. So that's not easy. When you're watching a stock get decimated, pulling the trigger, that's when you need to know your company. If you've done your due diligence and you have conviction and you know your company you're investing in, that's when you can do what Darren did and buy shares at a massive discount. I mean, he got these for $5.50. CleanSpark's now at $7.64. It's just this is the next day. That's one day later.
That's
so
insane.
Yeah.
One day.
That's why after hours can be dangerous. So some people got destroyed last night, and it's usually smaller volume. It's not the institutional money, so you don't really know how the market's going to react until the market opens. So, if you have conviction, you can almost, it's not, I was going to say steal people's money. It's not stealing. They're making the decision to sell. Like Darren said, thanks to that person for selling, because he got to buy him at $5.50.
So then here's my next question. Is this what you mean by always have your exit strategy?
You got to have a plan. That's right. You got to have, you should have an investment plan, and that includes an entrance strategy, an exit strategy,
All right.
a time frame, all those things. If you don't have a plan, then you're just shooting from the hip, and when you do that, you're the person that's selling CleanSpark down 15% after hours.
Dude, this is insane. Somebody, Saeed, wrote down that CleanSpark's at 788 after hours right now, and it is, by the way, 788.
So yeah, I mean, and again, it's after hours, so it's after hours will always be the Wild West. That doesn't mean there are, if you know what you're doing and you can find opportunities, but I would always caution everybody to be very careful in pre-market and post-market trading, because it's a lot of times what's happening, it doesn't make sense. And a lot of times you'll see it evaporate at the close. I can't tell you, I learned this the hard way over years, getting so excited watching, my stocks be like, oh boy, we're up 12% pre-market, and then, the market opens and, that's not what happens at all. So sometimes what's happening pre-market really ends up having nothing to do with what's actually going to happen when, the full market is open.
Tom, I guess the big news is going to be Monday with the hut.
Oh, yeah. So good call, George, because let me find
thank the people watching. I appreciate it, guys. My show prep, I call him.
Where?
It'd be interesting if Craig from CleanSpark is on right now to say what their target is for their price of for CleanSpark next year. That'd be
their own internal price target.
Well, maybe not. With the rumor of not like insider trading.
I feel like that's not how you do it. Well, I don't know. I know
I can just tell you open. Inside they believe around the halving. I can say around the halving. Would that not be in trouble? A huge number for Bitcoin. How about that?
For the price of Bitcoin.
Yes, a huge number.
So it's interesting, and this is the thing. This is the speculation game, because
you're right,
CleanSpark's very bullish on the price of Bitcoin going into the halving, but yet Marathon is bearish on the price of Bitcoin going into the halving. Now, I'd be interested to talk to Fred and see if they still have that position, but they've mentioned this on several different occasions, including their earnings call. They were extremely explicit. They are bearish on the price of Bitcoin going into the Bitcoin halving. So, and that doesn't mean they think it's going to tank. They just, they didn't give a specific number, but they said something to the effect that, while we would hope that, Bitcoin would act like it did in previous cycles, our internal data shows otherwise, and hope is not a strategy.
Saeed said that Chase Bank, JP Morgan, put a $9 price target on CleanSpark today.
Well, welcome to the party. They did that on a day it's up to, and oh, by the way, so let's I mean, give me a break. I'm going to show you why I say that. First of all, here's the 15 minutes. So when I tell you that this thing took off today, these are 15-minute candles. This is the opening 15 minutes of the day. So you can see, you know, we're going along, and then bam. Like everything. This is CleanSpark. So, but this is not the chart I wanted to show you. You know, coming out with a $9 price target is very, very courageous of them, since in the last 3 weeks, CleanSpark's up 122%. So welcome to the party. They waited till it hit $7. You know, they could 3 weeks ago at $3.50. They could have made that call, and I would have said that was a bold call. But you know, at $7.64, big deal.
So,
by the way, they have now taken out the highs from July. This is the first Bitcoin miner of all the Bitcoin miners. So the Bitcoin miners in the first half of the year had a really nice run. Then, like I talked about, we had that 4 months nightmare. CleanSpark today got back to where they were in July. That might seem like, oh man, that's not great. That's the first Bitcoin miner that's done this. Most of them are not even close.
Really?
So that's how vicious this 4 months was. Remember, George, we were counting week 10, week 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. It just kept going and going and going. So this is one of the better runs. I mean, that's a 3-week run that was 122%, including the giant day today. But they're not alone. There's a lot of really nice runs. I'll give my shout out, Edmund, if you're out there. I'm going to give a shout out to Iris Energy. So, you know, just to talk about the point we were talking about before, you can see, well, first let me show you this run. And this is in, you know, this is 8 or 9 days. This is a 94% run in 8 or 9 days. So, you know, congratulations everybody that held Iris Energy. And I know we have a couple of members who are big advocates of Iris Energy. That's a gigantic run up in a short period of time. So congratulations to all of you guys. But to the point I was talking about before, you can see, like, even after that, you know, almost a double, these were the highs from this summer. Same time frame, July 19th, this was at $8. So it's only just now getting back to $5.57. This is what most of the miners look more like. You know, this still needs to take another 45% run up just to get back to where it was in July. A lot of the miners closed a lot of that ground this week. Let's take a look at a couple. Marathon had a big day today. So with this big day today, look at Marathon. I mean, that's an awesome candle, obviously, but still, same thing. Marathon has to move up 45% to get back to where it was on July 14th. This is the brutal ride. Now, for those of you who dollar cost averaged for this 4 months, you know, then you pulled a double with your lower price, you know, you're moving in the right direction. So it's all relative. And it's worth noting for, you know, I'll take this stock in specific. Although it is still down way off of its July highs, if you go, let's go. This is 1 year ago. This is 11 months ago. So in the last 11 months, Marathon's up 340%. So yes, it is not where it was in July. It was up 534%. But, you know, it's hard to complain if you caught this run. Now, the 12 months before that were a disaster for Marathon to get down to $3.11. But it wasn't a Marathon thing. As you guys know, this was a Bitcoin miner thing. Bitcoin and all the cryptocurrency had a brutal crypto winter. And in that time, the Bitcoin miners got decimated. not only was it a crypto winter, but the small cap stocks, the high growth stuff, got destroyed in this period of time. So it was a double whammy for the Bitcoin miners. Every single Bitcoin miner that we look at, which is 19 of them, they were all down more than 90% from their highs of November 2021. Some of them, they were all down between 91 and 99%. So, most people would say you got 19 stocks down between 91 and 99%, time to switch stocks. But I know a lot of you guys did not do that, and you dollar cost averaged and held in and waited, and you've gotten these giant gains. A lot of people that follow this channel, that are subscribers or members, I know have been saying for months, even before this run, they were already back in the green. So, with this run, a lot of people are probably up a lot of money right now. Other people are still working their way back towards zero, but they're in much better shape than they were 6 months ago and a year ago. So hopefully, you guys are in that position. Let's end this first poll. We're at 96 votes, just under 100 votes. By the way, we're over 100 likes, so thank you everybody very much. If you have not smashed the like button, please do us a big favor. Smash the like button. It helps the live stream in real time. Much appreciated.
George. No, Jorge. The 10K challenge is at 4K right now.
And just so that everybody knows, we did let that kind of sit on a shelf. We made no trades this year. So, we didn't actively pursue growing that this year. We just let it be. So we kind of
should do an update on it, Tom, because most people hide from that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we can definitely do an update on that.
Because this is going to be probably the coolest thing ever done on YouTube, in my opinion. Is that we went down? What did somebody say? It's the 10K to 1K, and then 1K back to 10K.
We were down 84%. So in the course of 2 years, if we can go down 84% and get all the way back up, for starters, to zero, that portfolio should still make money.
Right.
So certainly that's not what we intended when we started. This was a totally different journey than we expected. But, this is a part of a buy and hold strategy. Now, the biggest mistake that we made, and we've talked about this, we haven't talked about the 10K challenge in a lot. We put 10K in and we were not allowed to dollar cost average in. We just had that 10K. We were never going to add any more money to it. So as a result, in a bear market, that's not a good strategy. So it wasn't going to have the best results the way we went about it. But now, we've turned it into a buy and hold, and there will be a day where that's in the green. And it will be sooner than later, I think.
Will. I'm going to say this. Tom, I love you, but honestly, you scared me out of Iris. You want to take it or you want me to take it?
I don't. My answer to that.
Here, let me answer it. Okay. If he scared you out of Iris, that's not necessarily a bad thing if you got into maybe, let's say, Cleanspark or Bitfarm. Because, right? They still had runs. He never said get out of the Bitcoin miners. He's never said that. And it's not financial advice. You got to make your own decisions with your own money. Maybe you just were too scared in that aspect. You weren't convicted yourself. That's why you sold. Now, Edmund, he was convicted.
Right. Edmund's been a huge advocate of Iris Energy. And even, my point was at the time, the first thing is everybody's got to make their own buying decisions. And I understand when you listen to people, it's a part of, it's literally a part of your due diligence is hearing other people's opinions. That doesn't mean that you do what they say, but I understand everybody listens to everybody and that, we're all inside of each other's sphere of influence. But even from my perspective, I didn't say I think Iris is a bad company. I was crystal clear. I like Iris. I think they're a good company. I think they're going to be one of the winners in the long term. I thought it was going to take a lot longer for their price to recover. And I will tell you, if you look, I switched out of Iris into Cleanspark. Iris has to move 45% to the upside to get back to its highs from this summer. CleanSpark just took out its highs from this summer. So I'm very happy with the move that I made. So the question is what George asked, which is, what'd you do with the money you took out of Iris? If you took it and put it on the sidelines, well, then you're probably, not happy about it.
Right. And I think this is a great learning lesson for everybody, myself included. More or less, I'm talking to myself, is you got to be convicted in the decisions that you make on stocks. Because there's going to be market manipulators out there, and they're called market makers, and they do this. They will do everything they can to get your stock. And you have to have that conviction. I mean, look, I've just read another article right here from a 2-stage free cash flow. Based on that, it says CleanSpark should be at $10.80. Whoa! Tom? Hello.
Clive Chang, thank you very much, sir, for the unbelievably generous super chat. I appreciate it. Let's see what Clive has to say. Performance on the miners, all long-term options, all expire in January 2025. Plan to close these positions in the fall of 2024. 20 marathon 750 strikes, 167%. 10 marathon $10 strikes, up 135%. 71 CleanSpark strike, $5 strikes, up 127%. So you can see he took a leap option strategy, and options can't, if you know what you're doing. So please be careful if you're new at options. Walk before you run. But this is a great example. The January 2025s are leap options. And you can see the runs that these can take. I mean, most of these, if not all, these are up over 100%. It looks like you got to get to Hut $2 strike up 63%. That's like, and then Riot $15 strikes are down. But for the most part, I mean, that's big money being made. So for the, you can look into leaps options and go ahead, George.
No, so that means he owns my leaps. I mean, my $7.50. So I bought right before the market closed yesterday. I bought the $7.50. I mean, I sold.
You did he's got the 25s.
Oh, he's got the 20.
Yeah. Go ahead. Let him know what you did. But before you tell that story, let me just finish. That was a very generous, Clive. Much appreciated. Just so that, shout out to everybody who's given super chats and shared in the wealth, because we spend a lot of time on this. And for those of you who don't know, we're a very small channel, and our and I'm not complaining. We love doing what we're doing. Both George and I enjoy this, and we would do it for free, and which is basically what we do, because that was my point, that revenue sharing is insignificant. So it's much appreciated when you guys share like that. So Clive, thank you very much. That is very much appreciated. Go ahead, George.
Anyways, I sold the $7.50 calls right in January 20, so the 29th of January. Guess I should read the paper before I do this stuff, huh?
You sold the January 2024 calls.
Yep.
At the time, I mean, this was
before a ton of money.
And this was just yesterday, but it was before it was before CleanSpark even tanked. You didn't do this, in relation to that. You just felt there was going to be a pullback. You're still, but if you walk everybody through the trade, it's a grand slam home run trade. This is the deal. The January options, the January 2024 options, that's only 6 weeks from now. There was a pretty nice, healthy premium on those. These are the CleanSpark $7.50 strike point. So George holds a significant amount of CleanSpark, so he sold those options.
I didn't sell all of them, but
at some of them at what I consider to be a very large premium, and locked in that money. So yes, now all of a sudden, who would have predicted the next? It took one day for CleanSpark to get over $7.50.
I know.
So
I mean, literally, it took an hour. It took 1 freaking hour this morning, Tom.
I
I'm
know you
looking at
did.
it this morning. It's like $5.65, and then I go back and I call you and like, what in the world just happened?
But this is why we talk about be careful with options. Now, the strategy George took, it was still a sound strategy in my opinion, because essentially he's locked in profits. Now, if there's still 6 weeks left, if the stock pulls way back, you
It
know,
just needs to be 1 penny under, and I won.
that's right. If it's under, you keep that money, and you keep
749.
your
No offense,
stock.
guys. I'm rooting for it.
And listen, it's a coin toss right now as to whether or not that's the case. Just because we had a giant run today, all too many times we get caught up. You know, there's FOMO on one end, and you know, there's fear, uncertainty, and doubt on the other end. We don't know. 6 weeks in crypto world is a long time. So these stocks could
Oh,
take
yeah.
big swings in the middle. So we'll see what happens. But
So what you're saying, if your investment strategy is to pull profits, it might be a good time to pull profits. But
abs-
if it's not,
absolutely.
then let it ride, you know?
That's right. If you bought CleanSpark with the intent to sell it at $50, then you shouldn't sell it at $7.64. But if you're a swing trader, or if you bought a position and you're okay, let's just to use an example, and I just use a random number. Let's say you invested $1,000 into CleanSpark. One I'm going to give you a strategy. I don't do this, but let's say your strategy is every time you get to $1,500, you sell that $500 to take that profits, but you keep that $1,000 invested. So, theoretically, if your stock keeps going up over time, you keep making money, you keep taking profits as you go, and you stay invested. So you leave yourself some upside and you take some profits. That's one of, a million different strategies that's out there. So, you got to decide what your strategy is. And for a lot of people, on these runs, we just looked at two stocks that in a very short 1 or 2 or 3 week window of time, one was up 90%, the other one was up 120%. You cannot blame somebody if they took some profits in that window of time. I took some profits. I just didn't sell my stock. I had because it was such a long window of these stocks being beaten down, and I did have conviction that by the end of the year we would take a run. And I've been showing everybody the technicals for the members. You've seen, you've been involved in exactly what we've been looking at. I've been buying options. And, now with this giant run up, those options, just like Clive was just talking about. Now, I bought shorter term. I did not buy leap options. I bought options that expired in January, February, March, because I felt very strongly that sometime between now, particularly in March, I was very confident. And that doesn't mean I'm right. I just was very confident that between now and March, there would be a really nice move in the Bitcoin miners. I did think it would be sooner than later, but it's always best to leave yourself a little bit of time. And those options, when the stock's up 100%, imagine how much the option is up. That's all I can say. So I was able to take some profits that way. Now, it's small compared to my investments in my stock, but it's still nice to, be able to take some money out and put it in the win column. So that's one of the things that I do.
What could I do then to cover myself, Tom? Like, could I buy the $10 options so that I would only lose the 250?
You're
if
really
it went up, or no? Would you just?
And so just to be clear for everybody that's listening, when you own the stock, so you sold the 750. So from 750 to $10 is $2.50. So you're not going to lose that 250. And I know you know this. I'm just explaining it.
Right.
You're just going to lose the opportunity to make that extra 250. So, yes, one of the things would be to buy the $10 strike points. And a lot of people would do an option spread. You could have sold the 750. A straddle is different. A spread is, and you could do a spread in either direction. But, if you buy the 750s and sell the 10s, that reduces the cost of your 750s. assuming that, in your opinion, the 750s were out of reach. Well, if the 750s were out of reach, the 10s are certainly out of reach. It reduces your cost and increases your, potential gain as a percentage. So, that's an option strategy. For me, if I didn't do that initially, I would wait it out. This was a gigantic run up. The way Bitcoin moves.
Oh my goodness gracious.
What?
CleanSpark right now after hours is $7.99.
Wow.
Unfreaking real. Wow.
Here's the problem with that, though. And it's not a problem. But if you look at that, it's Friday. So it's Friday after, unless you plan on making an after hours trade today, you've got the price action of Bitcoin all weekend long. It's not until
9 o'clock Monday.
Right. So whatever's happening at after hours Friday typically does not resemble in any way, shape, or form what's happening in pre-market Monday morning, never mind at the opening bell Monday morning, which, for the stock, for, CleanSpark is an equity. So that's the next time you can trade it is Monday morning. So, unless you would have made a trade, you're not really missing anything. Now, if CleanSpark can hold this breakout if Bitcoin, I'm going to go back to the 1 day. If Bitcoin can hold these numbers, I think we could have an immediate next run up. So let me end this poll, do another one, and then show you what I'm talking about.
Dude, I have so much fun on this stream, guys. I just hope you guys do too. This is a lot of fun. Because, making money is fun. You got to admit.
Making money's fun. So today's fun. Do you have fun on the days where it's tough? Because we had months and months of that.
Black and blue eyes. And it was rough, dude. I mean, think about it. But one of the things that really convinced me to stay in the CleanSpark, and I think it's because of you, Crypto Fever, is the institutional holding in CleanSpark went through the roof.
$8. There it is, George.
Just broke it. Yep.
$8 after hours. So I don't know. You tell me. It was $5.50 23 hours ago. Now it's $8. Which one's right? It's the same company.
Wow.
It's the identical, exact same company as it was 23 hours ago. So this is what we talk about all the time. These are a leveraged play on a volatile asset. These are the types of moves you can't get these kind of moves in, more traditional stocks. But with reward comes risk, and we just felt the pain for a long time. So, hopefully this run continues because, for most people, they paid a financial and emotional price for, 12 to 18 months or more to get to the point we're at right now. So hopefully this is the beginning of the good stuff. I think it is.
Did you ever see the movie? Was it The Wolf of Wall Street?
Wolf of Wall Street. Yep.
Remember? Remember? Come on, guys.
They're going to copyright strike us.
$3.60 2 weeks ago was CleanSpark. Isn't that crazy? I'm laughing at how crazy this run has been. This has been insane.
Sorry, excuse me. This has been an unbelievably good run. And everybody knows, for me, my number one conviction play is CleanSpark, and it has been. So I am going to do a deep dive because there were some question marks that I have reading through and listening to the financial results that they just put out. But it does not change my overall position. Even if the answers are, within the downside of the range that I think, I still have a very high level of conviction in CleanSpark. But that doesn't mean I don't, I would like some answers to some questions. I think some stuff, there were some surprises in there, and investors don't like surprises. So usually, and that's what that 15% down last night was. What today is, I still don't know. I don't know why. I mean, let's run down. in no particular order, this is the order I happen to have them in. Bitfarms was up 16% today. HUT was up 19.5%. Hive 13%. CleanSpark 22%. Riot just under 10%. Marathon 14.5%. Cypher was the dog on the day, and it was up 6%. And that was by far the worst stock on the day. Iris almost 13%. BitDeer 11%. Bit Digital 10.5%. A lot of the small caps were up 20%, 30%. I want to look at a stock. At one point today, I don't know what in the world happened. And if anybody made a swing trade on this, or a day trade really, congratulations. I'm going to go to one particular stock. I almost feel like maybe there was a rumor going around or something. And
Are you going to any?
Yep.
I just was looking at it. I have it up on my screen right now, and I'm going, what in the world happened to any? It went up to 106 today.
You can't even get perspective from looking at this chart. Timeout, first of all. Miner Doc, thank you very much, sir. That is extremely generous. Thank you for the super chat. Let us know. Drop a comment if you have anything you want to tell the group or tell everybody. But much appreciated. Miner Doc's been with us for a long, long time. So appreciate you watching and commenting. And thank you so much for the super chat. So let's just show exactly what this was. This is a 1-day candle. From the bottom to the top, that's 89%.
That's crazy.
So from the open to the top. So I happen to glance, I'm looking at this stuff all day long, so it's not a coincidence, but I glanced at it and it was up like 72%. And I'm like, what is going on? Because early, this was in the red. In the members only Discord, somebody made a comment, at that point, everything had started to take off. So everything was in the green big time, and any was the only stock in the red. So somebody said, are we looking at is this going to be the first one that goes under? Because that kind of felt like a little bit of a, all right, a sign, if you will. And then all of a sudden, boom, this thing goes ballistic. Now, it came way back down to earth. It did finish the day up 28%. This, if I did this perfectly, it was exactly 28% up on the day. But for those of you who happened to catch this trade, man, oh man, that was not me. I want no part in this stock. I have no conviction in this company. I don't dislike this company. I think they have a good balance sheet. I just think it was a rough road for them. They had to make some major changes at senior management, and they got a tough path ahead. So I'm not sure where they're going to end up. But somebody did something today. Let's look at the volume and see what in the world. Most of these Bitcoin miners had massive volume today. We'll take a look at that because that's also important. It's not like these stocks drifted up today. Look at this. 141,000 is their average volume. I can't remember if this is a 20-day or a 30-day average, whatever it is. This is Yahoo that calculates this. 6.5 million shares for Sphere 3D, stock ticker NE. So this was a massive volume. And you can see a lot of this volume was at these very high numbers. This traded at $1.06 today. This came into the day. This opened at 62 cents.
Are there rumors it's going to be sold or something, Tom?
When I saw up, I think it was 72% that I happened to catch. And I thought, I went and checked. I'm like, did somebody buy this? Was this the first, merger and acquisition? And I didn't see anything. So I don't know. Maybe there was a rumor going around. Or maybe within the next week, we'll find out that maybe somebody knew something we don't know.
That's usually what happens.
I mean, it could be. I'm not.
Did you go on X?
I did not go on X, Twitter.
I'm going on X right now, guys.
I'm trying to catch up on Twitter. It's all the social media is a lot to keep up with. So, and my first focus is the members only Discord. And then obviously, we get a lot of comments on the channel. So I try and stay focused on those two things. But I do like to stay engaged on X. There's a lot of great people over on X. And so I do, this weekend, I will try to catch up over there.
It's just
What?
no. I'm just looking at the price of like 38 cents, 39 cents.
Yeah.
Mr. Deployable, thanks to any $70 price target. Okay. Any surge 6 in one day to see. Nobody knows.
Darren is saying that rumors that any won their lawsuit. So maybe that was the spike. Darren's always looking. He sees a lot of stuff out there.
They're in a lawsuit?
And Crypto Fever said the same thing. I heard rumor that something with their court case, I think, with Coors, but I'm not sure. So I don't know. Maybe that spiked it. Stephen English, are you doing an advertising boycott on X? I will be on X this weekend. I got to catch up. I fell behind. Sometimes I fall behind. Between the, I got 2 members' videos out this week. I'm trying to catch up on those. So, and you guys can see the information. This was an information overload this week. We haven't even talked about a lot of huge things that I think the 2 biggest things that happened this week, we have not even mentioned for 1 second yet on this stream. The 2 biggest things in the Bitcoin world and Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining world.
What are the 2 biggest things, Tom?
What are those things? I mean, CleanSpark's clearly one of the top 3, and it's a very high level of interest in this group and amongst all of us, myself included. So, but let's go to a couple of other things because there was some massive news this week. Let's go to the non-Bitcoin miner news. MicroStrategy buys another 16,000 Bitcoin. So this is just in the month of November. So software intelligence firm, I don't even know why they even call them that anymore. They do have a functioning business here. Michael Saylor isn't even the CEO of that company anymore. He's now the chairman of the board and head of the Bitcoin policy for their company. So, they have an underlying company that just breaks even. It's always had just around a $1 billion market cap on its own before they were doing their Bitcoin thing. Anyway, that aside, software intelligence firm MicroStrategy has announced another massive Bitcoin investment, purchasing 16,130 Bitcoin for $593 million, bringing the total of its treasury reserves to 174,530. So what this doesn't say is that's in the month of November. So 16,130 Bitcoin in the month of November. I think this might be, I want to find, I think this is the second biggest monthly purchase they've ever made. And you can see they're at just under 175,000 Bitcoin. This mentions they've made they're up, I won't say they've made, they're up $1.3 billion on this now. So this is big news. For those of us who follow the Bitcoin miners more closely, this isn't as important to us, but this affects Bitcoin and the Bitcoin community in a big way. Obviously, Michael Saylor is by far the biggest name in Bitcoin. He's the Bitcoin ambassador to the world at this point. And there are other people, but I don't even think anybody's in second place. Michael Saylor is the leader in this. He runs seminars teaching other business owners on, how to, get involved in Bitcoin.
Well, think about this one, Tom. If there is an ETF approved, he ain't selling those freaking Bitcoin.
No. Michael Saylor's not.
I'm telling you, man, it's going to be interesting.
MicroStrategy has made it perfectly clear they're not selling any of these Bitcoin. I don't think they would sell them at $500,000. Bitcoin 500,000. Maybe they would start averaging out of them, but certainly they are not. If Bitcoin triples or quadruples or 5x's, they're more likely to still be dollar cost averaging in my opinion, at that point than selling out. That's how much conviction Michael Saylor has. He's crystal clear. He's recently quoted in one of these articles, talks about it. He said Bitcoin needs to 10x, and then the next thing that needs to happen after that is it should 10x again. So that's his opinion on where the price of Bitcoin's going. So that would be, $4 million. Now, he didn't give a time frame for that, and maybe that was a little bit of hyperbole, but not much. I don't think so. I think him, Kathy Woods, there's a bunch of people who think Bitcoin's going to $1 million. So I think that's getting a little bit far out. I don't mean that they're off. I just literally mean from a time frame standpoint, it starts to get hard 7 years, 10 years, 15 years into the future to start making price predictions. But, I think the upside, the vast majority of the upside, in my opinion, for Bitcoin is ahead of us, over those types of windows of time. This is a generational thing. And most of the people here, I would guess, have a similar point of view to that. Let's end this poll and get a new one going first before we start talking about the next thing. Will Bitcoin get to 45,000 in 2023? Bear in mind, it is December 1st. So that would mean this month we hit exactly 39,000 today. So 64% say yes, 36% say no. So that's inching up. We've been asking this question, and the numbers are getting a little bit higher, but still some healthy skepticism as to whether or not we're going to get all the way to 45,000 before December 31st. I'm on the fence on this one. I think there's a real shot at this, but I don't think by any means it's a lock. So,
well, I mean, knowing that he bought 16,000 coins is, it's going to help it.
That's what I'm saying. This information coming out today, because the Bitcoin community is a lot larger than the Bitcoin mining community from an investment standpoint. This information affects the Bitcoin community in a much, much, much bigger way. And this was very big news. So, 16,000 Bitcoin, there's a $593 million investment. And there's some of this I think is largely priced into MicroStrategy, but there's a mark to market. They're going to change. The accounting rules have changed. I think by the time they implement it, they may be able to potentially pick up a $4 billion gain in whatever quarter they adopt the new accounting strategy, or strategy is the wrong word, the new, accounting rules. So there's early adoption. I think you have to adopt in 2025, but there's early adoption that's going to allow them to write this up to its market value and be treated more like all the rest of the assets, in the world, more like equities and commodities and things, versus right now it's treated as an intangible asset, which is, very negative treatment. So, it's one of the things that's keeping a lot of companies, in my opinion, it's not the only thing, but it's a big negative. If a publicly traded company is looking to buy Bitcoin, this tax treatment is a big negative. It's a big reason to hold off and wait. So the fact that that is changing, I do think, is another catalyst in the future. Okay, so this is one big thing. All right, let me end this poll and we'll start a new one. So I want to do a natural follow-up to this particular poll. Before I do that, if you have not yet, if you could please smash the like button, I would appreciate it. It helps the stream out a lot in real time. So if you enjoy the channel, if you enjoy this content, if you're enjoying this stream, which I hope you guys are, please smash the like button. Also, if you have not subscribed to the channel, obviously it's free to subscribe. So if you enjoy the channel, please subscribe. That also helps us in the algorithm, not to bore you guys with YouTube nonsense, but all that stuff, smashing the like button, subscribing. It helps, it helps the videos, and we're trying to spread the word on these Bitcoin miners. So you guys can be a
for
part
the
of
last
that and
2
help.
years now.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, I've never thought about it from the point of institutions holding Bitcoin, hodling.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
I mean, it's really not happening
when
yet.
will Apple get in? Will they ever get in?
I think they should get, at some point, I think they should get in just for a publicity splash. I mean, Apple has so much cash and short-term investments. If they threw 1 or 2 or 3 or even $5 billion at this, I mean, as hard as it is to believe, that is completely insignificant to Apple from a, amount versus the amount of money that they have. So
Right.
that's out there. When the time is right, I think they'll do that.
When do you think the time is right?
I don't think it'll be before the halving. I don't think it'll be before an ETF. A lot of these companies, like usual, everybody's going to be late to the party, and then they're all going to FOMO in, and that's good because that'll help, whatever bull run we're in, that'll just keep pushing it higher. But if those who haven't, if they haven't done it, but Michael Saylor is leading the way. At this point, the people that have not gotten in are following. And that's the vast majority of corporate America. They're terrified of this. And this is typical. When you're, if you're an executive of one of these companies, your nightmare is, that you do something different than all the other CEOs are doing, and it goes wrong, and then everybody's pointing the finger at you, and you're holding the bag. So for that reason, they're terrified to do anything outside of standard issue procedure. So that's one of the reasons Michael Saylor is on this mission to, explain to these people what Bitcoin is, how it works, how it can help their business, and why they should diversify their portfolio and include some portion of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. But you can see it's like pulling teeth. By the time they're all doing it, I think it's, they're going to be way behind.
Here's my quick question. When they do it, will everybody else get in too?
When Apple does, I mean, there's a few, there's the Magnificent Seven. There's 7 companies that are just so much bigger than all the other companies. And, some of those start to adopt. Look what happened when Tesla did. That was the original catalyst for the last bull market. Actually, it wasn't even them buying. That was the second round of Elon Musk. First it was just an Elon Musk tweet that sent Bitcoin to 40,000 for the first time back in January of 2021. Then Tesla bought some Bitcoin that sent Bitcoin up again. Then he did a monumental flip-flop in a manner that, in my personal opinion, was totally not believable in any way, shape, or form. If you guys remember, he came out and said, "Oh, I didn't know there was ESG." Sorry, I said the letters. I didn't know there was a problem with Bitcoin. I was unaware of that. So, now we take it back. We're not going to use Bitcoin because it's bad for the environment. So I found it unreasonable to believe that somebody spent $2 billion buying something and they didn't know the single most basic thing about it. So anyway, ancient history. But to the point, that's one company that did it, and look what happened. So if a Microsoft or Apple or Tesla gets back in, or NVIDIA or any of those other things.
Do you think Tesla's completely out? I didn't think Tesla was completely out. I thought they just got rid of some of it.
I don't even remember where they stand. I know at some point they bought a bunch, they sold some. I'm not sure if they sold the rest, but more importantly, they said, "Oh, we're not going to accept it as payment. We didn't realize it's bad for the environment," which, we've come a long way in that conversation as well. That was a lot of the crypto winter. It was insult to injury. the FUD regarding the environmental aspects of this. And, I understand Bitcoin is energy intensive, but there was a lot of misinformation out there regarding how much energy is used, how it compares to other things, how much of the energy the Bitcoin miners were using was green energy, right? And CleanSpark talked about that on the conference call yesterday. The vast majority of what they're doing is green energy, and a lot of it is nuclear energy in Georgia, where you are. So, there's a lot.
Nuclear is the best.
It's
Better, matter of fact, who was it? Somebody's doing a study right now about the benefits to the environment of Bitcoin mining, by the way. It was like U of R or Cornell, some major university right now is doing the benefits, especially when it comes to third world countries.
They should be. And Cambridge University did the opposite study. And in my opinion, they should revisit that and check their information. There's a lot. What you just said. Bitcoin can bring infrastructure to places that don't have energy at all. So, there's a lot of people in this world that, are less fortunate than, a lot of us here on this stream. And there's a lot of places in the world that could use the infrastructure to get energy, it'll reduce the cost of energy. It'll bring energy to places that doesn't have energy. The vast majority of the Bitcoin mining energy that's used is already green. So it's not 100% by any means, and it's different from company to company. But, there's massive amount of green energy, a lot of stranded energy, wasted energy. So, you can't, when somebody's using stranded or wasted energy, at least they're putting it to use, right? Versus that's happening anyway. So anyway, there was go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to ask if the DXY moved at all today. That was still.
It's a little bit higher than it was, but we'll take a look. It was really, we had some nice momentum to the downside.
Yeah, Christian just wrote the nicest comment ever.
What is it?
CleanSpark made me a multi-millionaire today. That's awesome, dude.
Congratulations.
And thanks, Darren, for the information. I will.
So let's just look.
Yeah, it's funny because BlackRock really did FUD everybody, including myself, with their ESG thing. I think they made ESG just to get into the miners, by the way. Watch the stream.
If you had said Bitcoin, I might agree with that. But the Bitcoin miners.
No, to get into the Bitcoin miners. Think about it. They destroyed the price of it.
They did, but all the Bitcoin miners put up together, all added up together, even when they were at their all-time high, were just a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of the market cap that Bitcoin was. So it's such a small. Yeah, it will be a bigger space later.
Right. But, so I mean, they're gonna make the money then. You know what I mean?
I know, but I just don't see. I mean, their ESG newsletters for a couple of years in a row affected trillions and trillions of dollars. I just don't think they did it to target the $10 billion that's in the Bitcoin. It may have been on their chart, one of the 100 things they did it for, allegedly.
Tom, there is a person that is pretending to be you on Discord, just so you know. His name is talking_investing. Just in case he's watching right now. Hello, guys. I'm George, just so you know. He's doing auto trading. Your income depends on how successful and focused you are on making money. I trade with a system with very low risk, high rewards. With traders, see six figures constantly.
So this is a good moment to we always say this, and I'm sure you guys have heard this a million times from other people on YouTube. Neither George nor myself will ever contact you in any way, shape, or form to ask you to buy something or do something or give money in any way. So if somebody's asking for money or reaching out, it's not us. We have our legitimate channels that we reach out to people through.
I'm going to take a picture of it and put it on Discord for you guys.
And the only money that this channel, we have one thing, which is a membership. So, we ask for $5 a month to become a member. And for that, we have a once a week members only live stream. I do a extra video each week that's for members only. And we have a members only Discord. So those are the places that you can see us and talk to us. And that's the only money that we ask for on this channel, and it's $5 a month. So if you're getting hit up, even if it looks like me or it looks like George, it's not us. So please be careful, not just of scammers on this channel, but it's rampant. That's everywhere, unfortunately.
I put it in general and also the members chat. I'm disappointed in you, Tom.
What?
Well, this guy's going to teach me how to make 6 figures a day.
A day? Sign me up. I want in. I changed my mind. Man, that's pretty good. I think most of you know when you're running across a
okay.
scammer,
Says
but
you need to make a deposit into his cryptocurrency wallet.
Of course.
You can trust him though, Tom.
Brandon said Mara will join Cores, which just kind of popped a thought in my head. One of the comments that was made yesterday on, sorry to switch gears. One of the comments that was made yesterday on the Cleanspark conference call, I found very, very interesting. Cleanspark talked about the fact that, there was going to likely be some mergers, some of the big companies acquiring some of the smaller companies. So that part was not a newsflash by any means. I don't know how much of that's going to go on, but we've started to hear a lot of talk of that from, Fred talked about that a lot on Marathon's conference call. They believe they're going to do some mergers, acquisitions, have some big buying opportunities with some companies that just can't make it through the halving or beyond. So, that part is not new news. What was new to me is Cleanspark talked about the concept of the large Bitcoin mining companies merging. And that, that was on the table. And one of Cleanspark's goals was to continue to improve their position inside of the industry so that, as they enter potentially some of those conversations in the future. Obviously, they didn't commit to anything or say anything specific, but, they wanted to put themselves in a position of being the leader, in a position of power, if there was going to be potential, mergers and acquisitions among the large Bitcoin miners. So, to me, that means like, Cleanspark, with companies like a Cypher or a Bitfarms, and I'm using these as random examples, or Iris or BitDeer, or, some of the bigger names with larger exahash. He was not referring to, buying a stronghold that maybe wasn't going to make it, or an Any or a Mawson. He was clear that he was talking about very big, amongst the Bitcoin miners, the big companies potentially merging with the big companies. That to me was new news. I have not heard any of the other CEOs talking about that. And that doesn't mean it's going to happen. And like I said, he didn't commit to anything, of course, obviously by any means, but that was something new that we have not heard before.
SHA, I'm from Georgia. My name is George, and I do not work at Cleanspark.
George does not work at Cleanspark, although you did go take a tour of their facility.
Well, that's not proven.
There's no evidence of that.
There is. George, be careful connecting on calls. The scammers can skim swap anything. Oh, I do it on Discord. Do you know if they can do it through Discord? So he's calling me on Discord, and I was going to have fun with him. You telling me I can't? What's so funny is
I wouldn't.
He was texting me when I was talking to Tom. I'm like, Tom, why are you texting me? He goes, what do you mean? I'm not texting you. I'm like, Tom, you're texting me. Stop it. He goes, George, I'm talking to you. You know I can barely use the phone, right? Sorry, Tom.
The phone is about what I can handle. Sometimes I'm not a multitasker. Let's just say that. As those of you, the members know on the members only live stream, I got to take a couple extra steps, and it's all I can do to make that happen. So
Tom, when do you think that, like, you see this big pump, like for an example in any, okay? If they get this cash from this lawsuit, will that change the duration that that company can survive?
I have to tell you, I would have to do my due diligence on how much they stand to get out of that lawsuit. But the bigger picture is, is it enough for them to gear back up and at post halving, these companies have to have enough Bitcoin mining equipment, enough exahash to generate enough gross profit to pay for overhead. I mean, that is just the most fundamental basic. That's not even winning. That's surviving. So unless some of these companies with very small exahash can get themselves to a place where they can generate the gross profit to pay for their overhead, that's my big concern. So the two types of companies that I think, have a potential problem, not necessarily on the day of the halving, but, sometime in the next 6 to 12 months after the halving, if they have a lot of debt or if they just don't have enough, if they're not geared up enough coming into the halving, if you're at 1 exahash or 2 exahash, I just don't know. I don't see the math on how you're going to pay for your overhead, because if you look at most of these companies, their overhead is not insignificant. So the numbers get really tricky. Now, if Bitcoin runs to 120,000, maybe that changes things. But for most of the last year, even including, just 30 days ago, people were talking about, they were debating, is Bitcoin going to be at $30,000 at the halving? That was kind of, the debate was 30,000, 35,000. The people that were very optimistic 30 to 45 days ago were saying, well, maybe Bitcoin will be at 40,000 at the halving. So, I think the narrative is starting to change on that. Obviously, we just hit 39,000 today, but, at Bitcoin 35,000, there's a bunch of companies that will not make it. They just don't, they're not going to be able to generate the gross profit to be cash flow positive. And, their market caps are already down to 10 million, 15 million, 20 million. Even if a $12 million company goes up 100% today, they're a $24 million company. They still can't raise any money through equity at that point. Right? I mean, how much they could... It gets very difficult. Your options are getting more and more limited. Now, like I said, go ahead.
Sorry, somebody else made another Discord with your name on it, talking with what's the thing up high? The apostrophe S, the apostrophe, talking apostrophe investing. So
cancel them
made
out.
The account today. I know. I'm just letting you know. I'm just letting everybody know on Discord. Listen, it's not Tom. Just so you know.
And if you are looking at Discord, George, there's something that shows that it's really me. I don't remember what it is, but there's some little thing they do to show the real me that's me. Also, again, if it's somebody asking for money or asking for something, it's not me. I'm just getting a poll up real quick.
Oh, this was not you either. There's another guy I've been talking to. It's not you. AKA,
what are you talking to any of these people for?
He sounds just like you, Tom.
I've known George for 40 years.
No, this was you. I don't see.
It was not me. I didn't send you anything.
No. It wasn't you, really?
All right, new poll. So, will Bitcoin hit $42,000. By the end of 2023, remember this is December 1st, which means we're talking about in the next month, can we take the run? First of all, let's go put our eyes back on Bitcoin here. We're at $38,724 right now. So that's about $3,200 away. Will Bitcoin hit $42,000? Does the run, so kind of, this is really the question is the next leg up from here? Is this a breakout? And do we have the next leg up? And if so, does it run to 42,000? I will tell you, whereas the last one I was wishy-washy on, I'm a yes on this one. I know you guys all have your own opinion, so my opinion does not influence you either way. So I'm going to tell you right now, while you're still voting, this one I'm a yes on. 45, that could go either way. I think it depends, but I do believe the next leg is up. I think we're still in a bull market here, and I think the technicals are in our favor. And I'm just going to show you super simple how I look at this, why I think we avoided. I think we went, not only did we go sideways, but we actually drifted to the upside in a consolidation period where really we were absolutely positively due for a standard issue 15 to 20% pullback. And we just, in my opinion, we avoided it. I think one of the big reasons Darren on our channel focuses on a lot, the DXY. We talk about this on with the members all the time. I had that chart up a minute ago. Let me get to that chart real quickly. So you can see we did have like a hammer candle here. The DXY did end at the low part on the day here. And you can see this was actually kind of good news. This green line, for those of you new to the channel or who have not been following along, the DXY, if you don't know, this is the strength of the US dollar versus a basket of foreign currencies versus the US dollar. So this is the strength of the dollar. This does not have to do with inflation, so that's a different measure of the strength of the dollar. We know that inflation was rough over the last couple of years, and from a lot of other perspectives, the dollar is weakening. That's a part of the Bitcoin thesis, really, is that fiat currencies are getting weaker and weaker and diluting themselves, and they're very inflationary. This is different. This is the strength of the dollar versus foreign currencies. So this green line was a 20-year high for strength of the US dollar. We crossed this over a year and a half ago. We hit a 20-year high. We've been bouncing on either side of this for a year and a half now. So the strength of the US dollar has been extremely high for a long time. And we've been talking on the channel, one of the things that really makes this crystal clear, if you look at this was a local bottom really for the last year and a half. The DXY bottomed out on July 14th. Well, remember, Bitcoin hit its high for the year of 2023 on July 13th. So that's all these red candles in a row. At the end of this run right here is when Bitcoin hit its high for the year, which was 31,800 and change at that time. Now, subsequently, we've taken that out. But I will tell you, in my messy way, we took that out right here on this move to the downside. Once again, as the DXY has pulled back, Bitcoin's been running. So I'm not saying that's the only reason, but what I am saying is when we look at the technicals, for this portion of this, we were kind of due for a pullback, but because the DXY was plummeting, I feel like those things were canceling each other out, and we did not get that pullback. Now, some of you might not be happy we didn't get the pullback because, if you're bullish on Bitcoin, what's a pullback? It's a buying opportunity. So,
Tom, I got to sneak out.
All right, George, have a good night. Enjoy your weekend.
A lot of fun, guys. Really appreciate everybody watching, and keep watching. I'll be in the chat, so FYI. See you guys.
All right, we'll see you in the chat. Thanks. Have a good night, George. Let me switch over to non-George mode. Okay, so this is the DXY. So you can see this pulled back, and today, it did. So what will be interesting to see is if this, we kind of bumped into this line on the other side now. Is this going to turn into resistance, and is the next leg for the DXY down? If so, I think that would bode well for Bitcoin maybe hitting that 42 or maybe even that. I think a pullback here is what would get us to that 45,000 Bitcoin price. So, this remains to be seen. But in general, you can see this is moving down. We'll see if that trend continues. But that's an important thing on the channel we've been trying to keep our eye on. So just from some technical standpoint, you can see, let me get rid of this. Okay. So if we look at the RSI, this is the RSI on the 1-day time frame. And you can see all year this has been corresponding. I've got some of these yellow arrows. This was a 20% pullback. This was a Bitcoin 20% pullback. This was a Bitcoin 20% pullback. So you can see in each of the 3 times that we had a 20% pullback in the year 2023, the Bitcoin daily RSI went from overbought. For those of you not familiar with the RSI, it's very simple. It's the relative strength index, and the higher it is, the more the underlying asset is considered overbought, and the lower it is, it's considered, oversold. So the typical markers are 70 and 30. For Bitcoin, I might even say 80, because you can see this line's at 89, and we got there a couple of times, but 70, the other 2 bull runs ended at 70. So, once, twice, 3 times when we got to a peak here, we had a 20% pullback. Well, on this run, we got all the way up to this 89, which rivals some of the all-time highs. And then we started to have this pullback, but we kind of caught ourselves here at 50. And I feel like we're now turning around and we're gonna move back up. So I think we got, 50 is absolutely neutral on the RSI. So I think this did not finish its journey down to its natural oversold spot because the DXY kind of bailed it out of this piece of the puzzle. So you can see in this move down, we still moved up. And typically that would be considered potentially a bearish divergence and be even further indicator that maybe we were moving to the downside. But now you can see, with today, we're starting to hit higher lows and higher highs. So, I think we're, this is starting to signal a move back up. That's why I believe the next move is to the upside. That's why I think we're going to get to 42. And that doesn't mean in a straight line. We could have a bad day. We could have a bad weekend. We'll see. And obviously, the technicals are by no means foolproof, but you will see that in general, the 3 times we had 20% pullbacks, the RSI was a dead giveaway each time. And conversely, the run-ups, the same thing. We went from way oversold to way overbought. So there should have been some pullback, but instead, in that time frame where we would have been pulling back, so if you look at this time frame, this is when we really broke out. October 15th, starting with this green candle to this one. This is October 15th to October 24th. That's 9 days. That's a 26.5% run up. That was a gigantic run up. In that time, the RSI went to massively overbought territory. So after a big run up like that, after being way up here, you would think we would get a big pullback, but look what happened since then. Since that 26% run up, we've had another 14% run up. So I do think we're through the down part of this, and I think the bull run's going to continue. That's my opinion. So will Bitcoin hit 42,000 by the end of the year? We got 66 votes right now. It's free to vote. So if you have an opinion on that, please feel free to vote. Right now, we're at 79% say yes. So I think 79% of you agree with what I'm talking about here, that, we've avoided this leg down, and the next move is up. Darren said, Tom, Bitcoin isn't coupled to the DXY. The Russell Index and small caps are. Well, I mean, I disagree, Darren. I mean, we just saw literally the day the DXY hit its low for the last year and a half was the day Bitcoin hit its high for that same period. I do agree that the Russell is also, in fact, the entire equity markets is affected by the DXY. When the dollar is too strong, it negatively impacts a lot of things, including, in my opinion, not just the small caps, although there's no doubt the small caps, the Russell got hit worse by far than the other indexes. And I do think we're in for a nice bull run in the Russell at last, after, that kind of corresponded with the crypto winter. While we were having a crypto winter for all that time, the Russell kind of peaked in, I would say, January of 2021. So, we're about to be in January of 2024. That's 3 years ago. That 3-year period for the Russell was ugly. And if you guys remember back to December of 2020, January of 2021, even February of 2021, a lot of the retail stocks, and you guys probably remember the names if you were following along, they were 5xing, 10xing, everybody everywhere, throw a dart at the board. If you hit a small cap stock, it was going to run. And that was the time when there was, a lot of YouTube channels. That it's one of the reasons I really wanted to do this channel. There were just so many, and there's a lot of great content creators, so don't misunderstand me. I watch a lot of YouTube when I can. It's harder and harder, but I do have some people I trust on there. I think there's a lot of people giving good information, but for a while, there was just everybody out there just shouting, 5 stock tickers. Boom, this, buy this, every, and every day it was 3 new stock tickers. Well, that's not how the stock market works, in my opinion. And, for a while, for, a 6-month window of time, for other reasons, things were running up, and, everybody looked like when the market's running up like that, everybody's a genius. And then, when the market's going down, everybody's, an idiot. That's just how it works. Anyway, certainly the Russell has been hit hard, and I do think a lot of these small cap stocks, it's one of the reasons that the Bitcoin miners, I think, have started their recovery. There's several reasons. Obviously, Bitcoin's on a big run. A lot of things are coming together at the same time that make me extremely bullish on both Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. So it's not just the DXY. It's not just the fact that Bitcoin's moving up. I do think there's going to be more of a risk-on environment. I think the money's going to move back into a lot of the small cap stocks. I think a lot of these companies are going to start to show better financial results, a lot of the Bitcoin miners. And one of the things, when you look at, and I'm going to go through Bitfarms, I'm going to do a deep dive video on Bitfarms because they put out their financial statements, and I'm going to do a deep dive video on CleanSpark that just put out their financial info. And one of the things to bear in mind when you look at that information for the period ended September 30th, the average revenue per coin. So when you look at the revenue numbers and the gross profit numbers, the average revenue per coin was just under $29,000 last quarter for most of these companies, somewhere between $28,500 and $29,000. Well, we're almost $10,000 higher than that now in this fourth quarter of the year 2023. That $10,000 for most of these, for a lot of these companies, that's going to double their gross profit. So, just that first $10,000 does that. If Bitcoin continues to run, obviously the math gets better. Now, in April, we have the halving, and that changes all the math. So, we'll have to revisit that when the time comes. But the point is, whatever you just saw in this quarter that we're getting is going to be better for all the Bitcoin miners. Well, not all of them, but, the ones that we follow here the ones that I talk about mostly that I have conviction in, their financial statements are just going to be better in the fourth quarter. And it's simply because the price of Bitcoin is up substantially, and that's their revenue. So yes, the cost per coin is increasing as well, but by no means as fast as the price of Bitcoin is. The gross profit margin for these companies is going up. So, and it's different for every company. Not every Bitcoin miner is created equal. Some companies, some of the Bitcoin miners' costs are significantly less than others. So, the economics on this, are different from company to company, which is why one of the reasons why I've been saying for a long time, be careful, do your own due diligence, have conviction in your company, because I think there will be winners and losers in the Bitcoin mining space. I think there's going to be at least 5 companies that, unless we have some kind of monster run that most people are not predicting in the next 6 months, I think there's going to be a bunch of these companies that don't make it. And, maybe they get acquired, and that's the way they don't go out of business. They just get acquired or absorbed. And that may even end up working out okay for the shareholders. It's going to be a case-by-case basis. But the economics for a lot of these companies just doesn't, I'm just not seeing it when I look at their financial situation. But that doesn't mean they don't have some valuable assets that are of worth to a larger Bitcoin mining company, and they may get bought out. So, it's going to be, each individual company is going to have its own fate based on what it's doing. And the same is true for the larger Bitcoin miners. Those are not all equal either. So a lot of this has to do with, operational performance, financial strength. There's a lot of variables, a lot of which are in their control and some of which are outside of their control. The price of Bitcoin, the network difficulty level, that's outside of their control, but that is the same for all the Bitcoin miners. But what is different, if you take a company like Cypher or TeraWolf that has a lower cost per coin, from in that single regard, they're better suited for, if Bitcoin is in a tough spot at the halving, if Bitcoin's at 30,000 or 35,000, it's not going to be a problem for those companies. Same thing is true for the companies that have, rock solid balance sheets. If you have a massive amount of liquidity, you probably don't care too much about what the price of Bitcoin is at the halving. Don't care is the wrong word, but it's not going to affect your ability to stay in business. There's several companies that are in that situation. And I will tell you, one of the things that CleanSpark just did that I thought was one of the things in the win column, there was some things that I had concerns with on this conference call, and there were other things that increased my conviction in them. One of the things they did was drastically improve their liquidity. So I think that's crucial. That's as people were concerned about the halving, they now have, I think, $170 million of liquidity between their Bitcoin hodl position and their cash position. So, they're not worried about the halving from that regard. And they're not alone. Riot has a rock solid balance sheet. They're not worried about the halving. Marathon's not worried about the halving. There's a bunch of companies that, the halving is not their concern. They're looking more long-term. What happens, 6 months, a year, 2 years? What's the long-term plan? They don't have to scramble to situate themselves for the halving. One company that I do think spent the entire year successfully having to scramble to reorganize was Bitfarms. I have a high level of conviction in Bitfarms. That is one of my holdings. Their balance sheet was in a rough spot a year ago. So, operationally, I think they're one of the excellent companies inside of this space. I've always said that. From an operational standpoint, I think there's 2 or 3 companies that have separated themselves, and Bitfarms is one of them. We've had Ben Gagnon on the channel. He is, head of Bitcoin operations at Bitfarms, and to me, he's the best of the best at this. So I have a high level of confidence in their execution. Financially, there was some missteps, and I don't know that that's the right way to say it. They made a decision. They took a risk. They borrowed money to buy a bunch of Bitcoin, and that turned their balance sheet upside down, going into a crypto winter. Well, they've totally turned that situation around. It took a year of hard work, but they made all the moves they needed to. And now they just came out. I said there was two things we hadn't talked about yet that were the biggest things that happened this week. I'm going to go to that press release because first I'll go to this press release. This was last Friday, so it's now just 1 week later. Last Friday on the live stream, we talked about the fact Bitcoin tanked last Friday. The stock price did. They came out with this announcement. Bitfarms announces $60 million Canadian private placement. In addition to that, you'll see there were warrants for 50% more than this. The warrants executable at $1.17. So Bitfarms is already at, I think, $1.64 1 week later. So, they're going to get all this money, and I think they need it based on the announcement that they made. So the stock tanked, and we had a long conversation in the members-only Discord. I let everybody know that after hours, I bought Bitfarms. And that was the one time this year I bought something after hours. I earlier in the stream, I talked about how I don't really do things after hours. That's how confident I was that, in what's coming and I wasn't guessing because Bitfarms had twice told us in a monthly operational update and at their last quarterly earnings, they told us they were going to buy, they were going to skip the XPs, which they bought none of. They really did not buy machines for the year 2023. It was a part of their strategy to recover their balance sheet. They were going to skip the XPs and go straight to the 21s. So they told us they were going to buy these. So when this came out, this was a private placement. They got the money right away. So we had the conversation. It was, to me, nothing's a certainty, but this was one of the easiest setups ever. The stock tanked and, within days, they came out with, let me find. So I said over the next few weeks, you're going to get a big announcement, in my opinion, from Bitfarms. Well, it was like 3 days later. Bitfarms initiates transformative fleet upgrade that supports 17 exahash and 391 megawatts in 2024. By the time you get done with all this, and I will do a deep dive on this, they're pretty much going to replace the vast majority of their fleet. They're going to get to 12 exahash and then, potentially 17 exahash in 2024. They're at just a little over 6 exahash right now. So they're going to double their exahash. They're going to dramatically reduce their cost per coin because they're going to replace most of their fleet with much more efficient machines. To me, this was the biggest announcement in the Bitcoin mining space by far this week. Not only this week, this is one of the biggest purchases. This is probably one of the top 5 purchases of all time in the Bitcoin mining space. This is 35,888 T21s. Those are 190 terahash with an option for 28,000 more past this. So you can see they go through a chart, and I will do a deep dive on this, but this can get them to 17 exahash and beyond. And they're sitting at around 6.3 exahash right now. And a big question for them is they're at 6.3 exahash on machines where their cost per coin was a little over $18,000 in the quarter ended September 30th. So that was on the higher end. That cost per coin was worrisome, to a lot of investors. But again, they've been signaling that this is what they were going to do. So sure enough, they did this. And, as a result, I'm just going to go to their chart because you can see what happened here. So this is Bitfarms on the 1 day. So the first thing I'll say is you can see still they're nowhere near where they were at their July highs. So we talked about that earlier on the stream if you were not here. I believe CleanSpark is the only company out of the 19 publicly traded Bitcoin miners that I follow that is back to their highs from July of 2023. So we had a 4-month window of time where the Bitcoin miners got beaten up very badly. But you will see they did have a breakout from their highs from August. And from their low when they made this announcement, you can see they had a big pullback from their lows. So this was last Friday. So in 1 week, here's another company. In 1 week, Bitfarms is up 64%. So as everybody was panic selling this stock a week ago, you can see there was a total reversal here. So I think this makes Bitfarms one of, this puts them certainly, if they execute this, let me get back to if they can execute this plan, and obviously every time a company makes a big announcement like this, it's not done until it's done. This is all on paper right now. So they have to have the machines delivered, installed, they have to get them up and running. But one of the things that I think is Bitfarms' biggest strength is their ability to execute. So operationally, this is a very, very strong company in my opinion. So I do have confidence that they will make this happen. I also would say it's likely that just like what CleanSpark is experiencing right now, it'll probably take a little bit longer than they think it's going to take. That typically has been what happened. CleanSpark in 2023 hit most of their milestones pretty much on target, but almost all the Bitcoin miners run into some difficulties on pieces of the puzzle that are outside of their control, waiting, whether it's government approval or third party, whatever the case may be. So while this might take a little longer than they expect, I do think all of this will happen in 2024. And, we see where they're getting the money to pay for it. They already just told us that last Friday. So I'm very bullish on Bitfarms. Not financial advice, of course. None of this is financial advice. These are my opinions, but it's one of my large positions, and that's kind of my thought process on it. And I will be doing a deep dive on that because this was a gigantic, gigantic announcement. And to me, it clearly makes them a top 5 Bitcoin miner, whether it's 6 months or 8 months from now or a year from now. Tim's asking, was claiming 21 exahash a gimmick? So the other thing that I should mention, I don't think that was a gimmick. And there's a couple of things that will get them to 21 exahash or beyond. And one of the things that they talked about on their conference, they did do a conference regarding this purchase. These machines are manufactured to be overclocked, and they are warranted to be overclocked. And I think it's to 233 terahash. So the T21s, while they're 190s, they're warranted to run at, I think, 233 terahash. So he talked about that in detail, and I will discuss that more on my deep dive. But between that aspect and the fact that they're still going to have a lot of machines that while they're unracking them right now, they're not committed to selling them, because there will be a bunch of those machines that, they're not peak profitable, but based on proper placement and, timing of, timing the price of energy, a lot of those machines could be re-racked elsewhere and be profitable. So they do have several paths to continue to grow. So 12 is their first stop. That's the first thing I'm going to be looking for. Do they get to that 12 exahash, in a reasonable time frame when they talked about? Then 17 exahash, and yes, they mentioned 21 exahash. So we'll see about all that one step at a time. I'm going to keep my eye on them getting, because remember, they're at 6.3, I think, right now. So if they can get from around 6 to 12, that's double. And if they can do so with machines that are significantly more energy efficient, this is a totally different company. So that's what I'll have my eye on first. Sorry, I'm just reading. I'm multitasking now without George. George is always helps me stay caught up in the chat. So when he's gone, I try to just keep caught up myself. First, let's check in on the poll. Will Bitcoin hit 42K by the end of the year 2023? 1 month. It's the December 1st, so that is 1 month. 81% of the 98 votes. So thank you for the participation. That's a lot of votes. So 81% say yes, this run will continue and we're going to get to 42,000. So this is pretty consistent. And both of these we did, the poll we did, if you weren't here before this, was, will Bitcoin hit 45,000? And I think 66% said yes to that. So that's kind of that. I think that's where people are caught between. There seems to be a higher level of confidence that, the run up we're having right now has legs enough maybe to get to 42,000, but to 45,000, that's a big ask in 1 month, right? That's still, over $6,000 away. That would be a big move in 1 month. It certainly would not be unprecedented. Bitcoin's done that in a day. I'm not saying it's going to do that, but that's how these cryptocurrencies move, even Bitcoin. So it's certainly doable, but you can see people are a lot more comfortable, a lot higher confidence level that we're going to get to 42,000 by the end of the year versus, that incremental difference to get up to 45,000 by the end of the year. Give me just a second. I'm rearranging my screen. I don't know what happens. Okay, now I can see the chat and I got to keep everything so I can see everything. Okay. All right, Crypto Golfer said adios. Bitcoin, rocket ship. Have a good night, Crypto Golfer. Thanks for joining. Glad I Diamond, Matthew said, glad I Diamond handed CleanSpark. Thanks for your non-financial advice commentary. Congratulations to those of you who held CleanSpark, to those of you who held, particularly CleanSpark, Iris Energy, and Bitfarms had a big week. But you know what? Most of the Bitcoin miners had a big week, and I can't wait to do this weekly update. Every week, I do an update on the weekend. Sometimes I put it out on Saturday or Sunday. Every once in a while, I wait until Monday. But I summarize what Bitcoin did, what the Bitcoin miners did, and everything that went on for the week. And this one is going to be so filled with information. And in addition to that, the Bitcoin miners had a phenomenal week this week. So I'm looking forward to, and I'll just go back to last week's for a minute and show you. I'm looking forward to updating some of these charts. This is week 19. Every single week for 19 weeks, all of these Bitcoin miners have been in the red versus where they were at their summer highs and versus where Bitcoin's been in that period of time. So we're going to have our first one turn green in this weekly update, which is CleanSpark. I expect more to follow between now and the end of the year. So I do think the Bitcoin miners, I've been saying for the last month, I think we're in a shift now, and the Bitcoin miners are going to start overperforming versus Bitcoin. They're going to start to become the leverage plays that they were intended to be and that they often are. But, leverage works both ways. When Bitcoin was down, they were down even more. When Bitcoin's up, they're supposed to be up. Well, that has not been happening for a 4-month window of time. So I do think there's some catching up that's going to happen. And some of these are going to pass Bitcoin. The first step, they got to get green. And the second step, I think they're going to pass Bitcoin. And I think Bitcoin's going to continue to have a bull run. So, I think good things are ahead for Bitcoin. I just think the Bitcoin miners have some catching up to do. And you can see, when I do this week's, you're going to see last week's we had almost all green with the Bitcoin miners. So this is just week over week. That's the first chart that I do. So when we look at last week's, there were only 4 that were in the red. All the rest were in the green. So, and Bitcoin was up 3% last week. So the vast majority outperformed Bitcoin. That was new. That has not been happening. So this week, Bitcoin had another good week, but the Bitcoin miners will have outperformed Bitcoin by even a lot more in this week than they did in the previous week. So I'm looking forward to the weekend update. I think this was a great week, so it will be nice to recap some good news after now 19 weeks of looking at just a sea of red. But it's worth noting, even before this week, this is year to date through November 24th, which was last Friday. So you can see, even with that 19 weeks of brutal activity, the Bitcoin miners have had a good year for the most part. And like I said, there's going to be winners and losers. You can see at the bottom of this list, the market's worried about a few of these Bitcoin miners. some of them today had these two, Mawson and Eni, they were down 60 and 59% year to date. They had a phenomenal day today. So we'll see. No one day, that's not a trend, but even they had a good day. But a lot of the Bitcoin miners are up 100%. CleanSpark's up 174% before this week. Riot and Marathon was up 234% before this week. This is just year to date. Now, year's almost over, but that means Riot was up 234%. Riot was up 255%. Marathon 234%. I know Marathon outperformed Riot today. We'll see if they caught them year to date, but those two are the biggest two by market cap by far. So, even those two had huge, huge moves to the upside this year. So that's why I try to show all these charts. In this 19-week window that was awful, we still have to remember, for those who have been dollar cost averaging in, you were still okay. And I do think things are getting better. And I think there's more ahead. So we'll see. I think we got 4 or 5 of these left, and then the year's over, and then we'll see where we finish. But, it looks like the vast majority of the Bitcoin miners are going to finish in the green, but, finishing in the green is not the goal. These should be leverage plays on Bitcoin. So Bitcoin up 128%. These that are up, from here up, from Marathon up, this is the type of activity that we should be seeing. And in a bull market, it oftentimes gets even dramatically better than this. So we'll see what happens. We're not to the peak bull part of the 4-year cycle if the 4-year cycle plays out this way, the way it has in the past. So there's reasons to believe that it may or it may not. Time will tell. But I think there's an awful lot of room left to the upside for the Bitcoin miners. And I think we're at the beginning of, the move for Bitcoin. And we're not even back to 40,000 yet. So we're at 38,692. So I want to look at the daily candle, and we'll just quickly go through again. We talked about this for those of you who weren't here. And then I'm going to wrap up. We're running long. But I just want to go through this is the key. This is what I'm going to be looking for this weekend. Today and this weekend. So we have 2 important lines. This purple line at 37,885. That was on November 15th, so about a little over 2 weeks ago. That was the highest daily candle close of the year. That was November 15th. We've come very, very close. 1, 2, 3, 4 times we came within dollars of closing at this number, but it has been resistance. It's successfully resisted until today. We are now, almost $1,000 above this, and we're getting, we're a half an hour away from the daily candle close. So we will have a new high for a daily candle close on the year today. So that's one piece of good news. Now, this is still a little bit in doubt. We'll see what happens. It looks like, I'm going to go here and zoom in a little bit. It looks like we're in good shape. This was the previous, until today, this green line at 38,454. So on the daily, that's this line right here. You can see last Friday, 1 week ago on the live stream last week, this was the high of the year. Twice, we almost exactly hit that line this week, but did not get past it. Today, not only did we get past that line, we got to exactly $39,000 today. So we broke out of this. And if I go back to the 15-minute, you can see, unless we have a really bad half an hour, we're set up to close our daily candle above the previous high for the year. So those are 2 very bullish things. But one day, again, like we just talked about, one day is not a trend. So what I'm hoping is, those are 2 big moves. We've been looking and waiting for those for a couple of weeks now. It looks like we're going to get both of those today. It would be nice over the weekend to get some confirmation. If we can start to, even if we consolidate a little bit in this area, certainly we want to stay above this purple line. And, if we can start to move up from here and get some more daily candle closes above there, all of this looks like very, very bullish activity. You can see even this short-term trend. That's even, this is, what was this day? So basically this was after a gigantic run up, the last month. This has been sideways consolidation, but with a massive bias to the upside, right? So this has been a nice run. So to me, it looks like we're having a bull market, a bull run right after a bull run, because, if I show you what just happened before that, we just had this giant run up right before that. Now, prior to that, this was a longer period of time than it looks like. This was from August 17th, until this breakout candle on October 16th. So, that was a couple of months of very, very sideways activity in Bitcoin. But we had a big breakout, another big breakout. I think we have more room left to the upside from here. That is my opinion. I think most of you agree, because will Bitcoin hit 42,000 by the end of 2023? That's the next 1 month. 80% think we're going to get to 42,000 by the end of the year, which means 80% of you agree that the bull run continues. Edmund said, I'm just looking at the chat. Edmund said, Tom, we are 200K. We are plus 200K on Wolf and Iris since FE March 2023. Sold most of Wolf and about half of Iris, both near the highs, went into BAM, BTC, and XRP, all holds for 2 years. So that was Edmund's trade. So he's already made a lot of his money. He got out of, it looks like he's saying, most of his TeraWolf position. So, and TeraWolf, I think, has had a rough run since then. So that might have been very good timing. Got out of half of the Iris Energy position. And I know that Edmund is very bullish on Bitcoin and XRP. So, in addition to that, for those of you familiar with the channel, George, who was on the stream with us most of the day today, George is extremely bullish on XRP as well. We did do a members-only deep dive on XRP. It took me like 5 or 6 weeks of research to get to where I felt I was up to speed enough to talk about it. I'm impressed with XRP. To me, Bitcoin is the king of cryptocurrency, and it's the number one thing, but that doesn't mean it's the only thing. I do think there's other things that will have a use case and that will exist and survive, and some will thrive. XRP has been under the thumb of the SEC for years now, so there is a gigantic positive catalyst out there for XRP at some point, when this situation with the SEC ends. And that's just one, catalyst. So we'll see what happens from there. Edmund said, thanks for your not financial advice. You're welcome. Thank you, Edmund, for all your commentary and for being a member. Appreciate it. W Song said, agreed, Tom, regardless of what happened in the last few days, miners still have some serious catching up to do. So I agree with what you agree with. I mean, we're just getting rolling now, and obviously today was I don't want to ignore the fact that today was an awesome day. So that is the one thing I always try to say, enjoy the good days. We suffered through all the bad days. So if you were in a Bitcoin miner today, you had a good day because they were all green, at least the 19. I know there's some micro caps that I don't look at, but the 19 that I look at were all somewhere between green and very, very green. So it was a great day today. It was a good week. Darren S. said, Bitcoin 42 is a mere sneeze from here. So I agree. I mean, one good day. So the question becomes, and there's great confidence to 42, but the group was a little more hesitant about Bitcoin getting to 45 by the end of the year. That doesn't mean necessarily, and I didn't ask on a longer time frame. I think in my opinion, by the halving, I'd been saying 50,000. I'm even kind of FOMOing myself and want to raise that number, but I feel pretty confident about 50,000 by the halving, and it could potentially be better than that. We'll see what happens. JR said at Talk Investing, Tom, it's a great time for a long-term option strategy 2.0 update video. So that's a good idea, JR. We did do an option strategy, but that was an options members only video. That was a long time ago. So this would be a good time, because I think the leap options, these Bitcoin miners are primed for leap options, for some spreads. So there's all kinds of stuff. So that's a good idea. Jay said, Tom, I remember we had a similar day last August, at least similar in sentiment. Last August, like the August that this year, or well, we had a nice bull run. You may be talking about August 2022. Bitcoin had, at that time, its big run for the year 2022. It got up to 25,000. So that turned out to be, the high for the rest of the year. So, sentiment can change, if that's your point, Jay. Everybody probably did feel pretty good in the middle of August 2022, and it was all downhill from there. I think this is very different than that, but of course, that's what you always think. So we'll see. Only time will tell. So Jay, let me know in the comments. Are you nervous? You think the next move is down? W Song said, Cleanspark moved into my third position today. Bitfarm remains my number one position. So those are two of my top three positions as well, W Song. So I think we're on the same page. We may not have the exact same order. Crypto Fever said, a podcast together would be interesting between the two of you guys. I probably got to go back and see who he's talking about. Oh, Anthony, sorry, I missed you. Anthony Power. So I know I've been missing you, and Anthony did a little world tour recently. But I do want to catch up with you. So, and I know we've talked about this, and we haven't been on the same page, but absolutely, I want to do just, and not on a Friday live stream. We need to have one where it's just me and you. So I'm totally interested in that. I have not forgot about that at all. I didn't know you were on the stream. So welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining us. For those of you who don't know Anthony, I'm sure a lot of you do know Anthony. He does some excellent analysis on the Bitcoin miners. So if you're not following him, you should follow him on Twitter, or X as they call it, I guess, as the kids are calling it now. And yeah, I would definitely love to do that. So we will make sure to get that done. So thank you, Anthony, for showing up on the stream, and we'll coordinate that. I mean, I can do that next week if we can maybe find a time to get that done next week. That'd be awesome. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts. So that would be a great conversation. Michael Johnson said, thank you, Anthony, and I always enjoy your articles. Yeah, if you're not familiar with Anthony, definitely go check out his stuff. It's great stuff, and it's some of the best. There's only a few of us really digging into the Bitcoin miners, so and so we got to stick together and spread the word. So, and Anthony's definitely a leader in that. So, Jay said, I think the answer was, are you bullish? Jay said, but all euphorias come crashing at some point, and I fear it will be right after the spot ETF announcement. Well, I'm going to do a video on, so there is a big fear that, there's always the buy the rumor, sell the news scenario. I have a very specific reason why I think that will not be the case with the Bitcoin ETF. So I'll save that for its own video because, you know, that's an extended conversation, but just suffice to say, I do not believe a Bitcoin ETF is priced in. And I think that when that happens, we will move up from there. So that's my personal opinion. I'll do a deep dive as to why I think that. And obviously, on any 1 or 2 days, there could be a flash pullback, you know, fake out type stuff. But I think that, you know, I feel very strongly that a spot ETF is going to be a dramatic and long-term catalyst for Bitcoin. Michael Anthony said, Tom, I've been sick in bed, which can you tell me why CleanSpark been going up so fast? And do they have any debt? Very little debt. I think they said $14 million of debt. So very close to zero. They solidified their balance sheet in a big way. Now, they did so through stock dilution. So I am going to do a deep dive on CleanSpark because awful lot went on in this press conference that they had and with their financial results. So, you know, part of this prior to their financial results, you know, I just think CleanSpark's been way oversold. It has made no sense to me. So I've almost irrationally been dollar cost averaging into CleanSpark for, you know, particularly the last year when it was just beaten down, in my opinion, for no reason. So why now did it move? You know, I don't know if anybody knows the answer as to why the market does what it does when it does. And I can't tell you why today was a monumentally green day. It did not start out that way. The first 20 minutes or whatever was a humdrum. Pre-market was no big deal. The first 20 minutes was no big deal. And then all of a sudden, everything's straight to the moon. So I'm glad, but I don't know why. But it's all overdue, and I think there's more to come. So, you know, which exact day, who knows? But I think this is the beginning. Suzanne said, I love this chat. Thank you, Suzanne. I appreciate that. Glad you're joining us. Stephen English said, look at what happened to Bitcoin price on the false rumor of a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, there was a big pump on the fake out, and there's been fake outs, and there may be more. So for those of you who don't know where Anthony is at on Twitter, if you look in the chat, you'll see under Anthony Power, he just put his Twitter handle, so you can find him on Twitter. So that is in the chat right now. It's definitely worth checking out. Mark, who is a member, appreciate it. Thank you, Mark, for being a member. November was the best month I've ever had, and December 1st started like a rocket. Scooped $5.92 CleanSpark shares. Tasty returns almost immediately. Yeah, so a lot of people, if you seized the moment and the opportunity in, you know, CleanSpark was down over 5% during trading yesterday, and then it was down another 15% at one point in after hours. So anybody who grabbed it along the way had a really good day today. I already, like I said, have, you know, that's my largest position already. So, you know, I was very happy to see the reversal of fortune, even though I can't exactly tell you why. You know, that went from last night down 15% to today up 22%. My only answer to that would be that the market is irrational. But I do think this is a continuation of a trend that's been going on. CleanSpark is finally starting to catch up to what I believe its valuation is. So I think there's more to come. Edmund said, Tom, I agree. The Bitcoin ETF is not priced in. Many more clients will be able to invest. And then there is the halving. Pullbacks happen, but nothing to worry about till late 2025. Then who knows? Question mark. Yeah. So, I mean, if all things go according to plan, I agree with Edmund, you know, sometime deep into 2025, somewhere in 2025, in the ordinary course of the cycle, would be the peak. Now, we've only had 3 cycles, so there's no absolute guarantee that this one's going to look like the previous ones, but there's a lot of reasons to believe, cycle or no cycle, there's a lot of catalysts ahead for Bitcoin. Adoption continues, so there's a long bull case scenario regardless of the cycle. So to me, that's the icing on the cake, if you will. Edmund said Ditterbell is ringing. See you later. All right, enjoy your weekend, Edmund. Stephen English said, the thing is, when the ETF is approved, it doesn't start trading immediately. Mark LeBlanc said, at Anthony Power, great content, man. Michael Johnson, Tom, you have done an incredible job encouraging dollar cost averaging. If we have done our due diligence and are convicted in the miners, warrant it. And that's what I definitely thank you, Michael Johnson, for saying that. That's exactly, I think, what the message is. I'm a dollar cost average person. Everybody's free to invest however they want to invest. But, the other pieces of that puzzle is, doing your due diligence and gaining your own conviction. It's very hard to trade, I call it, on borrowed conviction. No matter how enthusiastic I am about something, if times get tough, that's not going to translate to you or vice versa. And the same thing happens to me. I have people that I trust throughout social media, and I think do a great job, and I am influenced by them, but in the end, I won't trade off of their conviction, no matter how convinced they are of something, unless I've done my own due diligence and know it myself. Because a lot of times, especially if you're a dollar cost average person, you're expecting a potential for the stock to continue to maybe present buying opportunities, right? You're going to dollar cost average up or down, if you're doing pure dollar cost averaging, but downward moves are opportunities, but not if you don't know your stock. Then it's fear, and that's the buy high, sell low scenario that the vast majority of retail investors find themselves in. So I know a lot of you guys I have seen, we've taken this journey together for years now, and I know a lot of you have had very strong conviction and continued to buy in and hold. QWERTY said, Tom, do you think Mara is due for a run to $20? Seems to be lagging. So let's go to the marathon chart. And you can see, so I wanted to go to the chart because the peak in July was $19.88. So that was in July. That's when Bitcoin was at 31.8. We're close to 39,000 right now, and 78% of us think we're about to head to 42,000. I do think Marathon will finish this run out. There's no reason it shouldn't get. I think, I won't say all, but I think the bigger, stronger miners that have the staying power to get through the halving and beyond, I do think they're all due to take out these highs from this summer. So, I don't know what day that's going to happen, but, in my opinion, and I don't even own any Marathon. So, I don't have a horse in that race, but I do my due diligence on that one. I do a monthly update every month on that. And to me, the pros outweigh the cons on this one, in my opinion. I think, yes, I think they will finish out this run, in my opinion. But, obviously, buyer beware and do your own due diligence, which we just talked about. Anthony Power said, very true, Tom. I have DCA2 this year. So, yeah, I'm glad to hear. I mean, I think for me, I don't know how to pick the top. I don't know how to pick the bottom, right? I don't know who does. I know there's day traders that scalp and do technical things, and that's not what I do. And, I know Anthony does a lot of deep analysis on this as well that is more lends itself to long-term investing. So I'm a long-term investor. Darren said, woo, 108,000 gained today. Best day since July 14th. And this train is just leaving the house. Well, I hope you're right, Darren. Congratulations on an outstanding day. So July 14th was the last peak. And so hopefully we keep going on this one. I agree. I think this one keeps going. So Mac Attack said Bitcoin 100K and GameStop to 100 plus for the New Year's. I don't mess around in the GameStop universe. GameStop has gotten back onto the radar in a big way. So I don't know which way is up on that one, but I know it's definitely all of a sudden back in the forefront, as well as AMC. But for me, I'm not in the know. So Suzanne said, I even have a Cleanspark tattoo. Is it a temporary tattoo just in case? Tom said, what happened to looking for the 10x opportunities? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, but I do think there's an awful lot of 10x opportunities and beyond. I think a lot of these companies will do a lot more than 10x, if your time frame is, a 2 or 3 year period. So I do think in this bull run, a lot of these companies will 10x or more. It will not be all of them, in my opinion. I've tried to really, really say I do think that there will be winners and losers. So, I think you got to do your own due diligence and pick the one that you feel good about. I try to give as much information as I can regarding these, but everybody's got to decide, which facts they think are important. But I think there's lots of 10x opportunities in here. QWERTY said, thanks, Tom. You're welcome. Of course. Duckman is here. Stronghold is up. Duckman is the #1 fan of Stronghold. And Stronghold did have a very good day, up 23.5% today. Congratulations, Duckman. Duckman's also been with us on the channel for a long time and is, like I said, is definitely, as far as I know, the #1 fan of Stronghold. So congratulations on a great day. Suzanne said, no, serious, permanent. I don't know if I believe you or not, but if you do, then that's conviction. That's conviction in a stock. If you have a permanent tattoo. CG said 10x. I was buying any and cores at the lows today. So some of these microcap stocks are the quickest possible 10x's. But some of the big companies, I think, will do more than 10x, if you wait for it. So, all right, I went really long today. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining on the live stream. Congratulations to everybody. Most of you, if you're invested in the Bitcoin miners, then you had a great day today. Probably a great week this week. So let's hope it keeps rolling. Just take a quick look. So we're still hanging in there with Bitcoin. And so that should have been, well, before we exit, it's 701. Oh, because I'm on the wrong chart. That'd be the #1 reason. Okay, so as I bid everybody a good weekend, our daily candle has closed. So we closed at 38,706. That is a new high for the year. We took out both of the lines that we were looking to take out. So a double win on the day today. Let's hope it continues for the weekend. So I'm glad we stuck in there by accident. I got all the way to the daily candle close here. So thanks again, everybody. Very much appreciated. Thanks to the members. Thanks to the subscribers. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks, everybody who gave a super chat. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. For the members, I will see you on the members-only live stream. And, of course, everybody can stay tuned. I hope you guys tune in and watch my weekly update over the weekend. And I did post a video today if you want to check that out as well. So thanks again and have a fantastic weekend, everybody.